Okay, guys, an interesting theory about Ultron has been making the rounds, making us wonder whether the villain of Avengers Age of Ultron could come back and seek revenge in a future Marvel Cinematic Universe installment. Well, people are pointing to this shot from Spider-Man Homecoming when Peter is locked in the government storage warehouse. Remember, he tosses aside Ultron's helmet, and clearly at the time it was like a little Easter egg to the dozens of Ultron clones that he made of himself, and he passes consciousness among in Age of Ultron. But the way, remember, we knew which of those robots Ultron was at any given moment was by the glowing red eyes. And this Ultron helmet has those glowing red eyes. So could this be Ultron? Did he survive Vision's final strike at the end of that movie somehow? Was there one other robot that he popped back into? Now, it wouldn't be the craziest thing for Marvel to bring back an old villain. Of course, Red Skull just made a surprise comeback in Infinity War after all. And an Ultron that has been locked away in solitude for years? That'd be way angrier and badass. Basically, the tyrant he is in the comics, more so than the Tony Stark invoked one in Age of Ultron.
The Robert California version.
I don't know. Do you think Ultron could make his return Avengers 4 to help in the fight against Thanos? Are you guys interested in seeing Ultron again? And if so, how should the MCU bring him back into the narrative?
Not as a major character. If they did bring him back in, I think it'd be fun for in the background in a real small cameo kind of way, which is very silly. He's on a beach vacation or something. I don't know. I don't think it was a successful enough interpretation of the character to be curious about how would he react to these events.
What if you plugged his head into a ship and you had it as a talking nav,
the Millennium Falcon?
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know if you want to. I mean, James Spader, I have no idea what his priorities are in life, so I don't know if he wants to do that role. But serious answer to your question, I don't need more. I got enough. It was already weird enough to see those mannerisms come through in a metallic body, for him to design. He designed eyebrows for himself so that he could emote more, so people could understand him. Anyways, I'm fine with no more, but it would be interesting to see more villains, like maybe Abomination showing up, because if you saw Hulk and Abomination teaming up, that would be very scary. That would be pretty scary to see him hop into the fight and then you just have him snapped out or killed or something, and that way you don't have to worry about him anymore.
I think you're touching on an interesting thing where I think both of us are pretty into the idea that hasn't really happened, but in comic books, no one's really dead. And it can be fun to, especially the villains, especially successful villains, to be able to bring them back. I mean, actually, we did just hear about Black Panther 2, without spoiling anything, might have a villain's return in that. And it's just part of that comic book nature is the fact that you can't kill evil and it'll always find you when you're weak and susceptible to it again. And I think that's fun. But I think we're also both Ultron is
He got his own movie. It's okay if he didn't. If Klaus showed up, I'd be more actually down for that. That'd be kind of interesting. Even though he'd be really not the most helpful person in that fight, I would be more interested in seeing someone like that. Not Zemo. Never mind. But there's some other choices, and I just don't know if the amount of work you'd have to do to explain why he's still around would pay off in a really cool way. But what do I know?
I don't think you would need to do that much work. They had barely a line for Red Skull, and people are just okay.
No, his is almost the easiest one to bring back. I hopped into a toaster.
Yeah, microwave turns on, it has a red eye.
Smart fridges.
Yeah. I need more Ultron. I don't think we've had enough. I think it was a kind of a missed opportunity in Age of Ultron. I think James Spader did fine. I think that movie, wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed it. But I think there's so much more you can do with this character. He can be so much more maniacal. He just fell victim, unfortunately, to many of the Marvel characters in that they couldn't be the ultimate villain because Marvel really has been one long 18-movie leading up to Thanos being.
What do you think about this? So, if he was still alive, how scary would it be if you were able to get a hold of the nanotech that Tony now has in his armor? And if you wanted to do some Fox Marvel rumor mill stuff, we saw I think you did a video on it, you mentioned that Deadpool and Cable's little time turner thing looks a lot like those little things you saw in Avengers 4, and Cable dealt with a techno-organic virus, so maybe you could kind of seep that into the MCU. It's a very scary concept of like nanites that are used that kind of can be contracted like a virus and can alter you into like a part of Ultron, or it could just be that you're an evil robot, but basically you lose a sense of self, and that could be a very cool threat to have in a future movie. If Ultron came back, that would be a very cool way to do it. Instead of building bodies, he literally just converts people. So he's like, I can't blow up the Earth, so I could just convert all of you into me. And it's like Ego's whole motivation, but planet size, but make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
That could be something fun that they could do. That's a fun element of Marvel Comics.
And it's an important message about chlamydia.
Yes. Let us know what you think about this theory. Do you want it to be true, or you, like many people, you had enough, you're ready to move on to a new villain? But yeah, as always, remember to subscribe to New Rockstars for all of our deeper theories about the MCU, things that may be a little BS, but still fun to talk about and think about. Cool. Thanks, everybody.